They told us the industry secrets were buried, sealed, and guarded like national treasure. Turns out, all it took was one name, one lyric, and one long whispered rumor crawling back into the spotlight. Because according to internet detectives, late-night threads, and fans who never forget a timeline, Nicki Minaj just allegedly cracked open a story that makes music beef look like playground drama. This time, the name echoing through the chaos isn't just Beyoncé, it's Cathy White. And suddenly, Becky with the good hair doesn't sound like a clever lyric anymore. It sounds like a breadcrumb trail people swear was hiding in plain sight. Allegedly. Heavy emphasis, because this theory comes wrapped in more speculation than a true crime subreddit. At 3 a.m., what's got people spiraling is the idea that this wasn't just rivalry, shade, or industry tension. The internet claims Nicki didn't just hint. She exposed. Screenshots resurfaced. Old interviews got replayed in slow motion. Lyrics were dissected like courtroom evidence. Fans swear the dots were always there. We just didn't connect them. And if even a fraction of what's being alleged is true, this makes celebrity feuds look like chess games played 5 moves ahead. This isn't tea, it's a full conspiracy cappuccino with extra foam. Because when queens clash, nobody watches quietly. And this story doesn't feel like gossip. It feels like a secret someone wasn't supposed to say out loud. This story didn't come out of nowhere. It crawled back from the internet's graveyard, dusted itself off, and said, "Y'all thought I was done?" Because long before this moment, the name Cathy White was already floating around in hushed tones, Reddit threads, and conspiracy-heavy comments sections where sleep is optional and suspicion is mandatory. For years, this was one of those industry rumors people mentioned and then quickly laughed off. Too dark, too messy, too unbelievable. The kind of theory you whisper and then say, "Nah, that's crazy." Except the internet never forgets. And crazy has a habit of circling back with receipts it may or may not understand. According to online speculation, Nicki Minaj allegedly reopened this chapter by poking at old wounds people thought were healed. Not with a press conference, not with a clean accusation, but with hints, timing, and enough breadcrumbs to send fans sprinting through archives like unpaid interns on a deadline. The phrase, "Becky with the good hair," didn't start as a smoking gun. It started as a lyric, clever, catchy, mysterious. But mystery is gasoline, and the internet is a match. Over time, fans started asking questions Beyoncé never answered directly. And unanswered questions are the internet's favorite hobby. Cathy White's name resurfaced alongside those questions. Again, allegedly, online theorists began tying timelines together, comparing dates, lyrics, interviews, and tragic events, building narratives that sound airtight if you squint hard enough. No official confirmations, no verified claims. Just patterns people swear they see. What changed recently, according to fans, was Nicki's energy. Not loud, but pointed. Not direct, but intentional. The kind of subtlety that makes people rewind and say, "Wait, did she just say that?" Suddenly, old tweets were reposted. Lyrics were reread with new emphasis. Interviews were clipped down to single sentences and blown up like headlines. The sarcasm online was relentless. People joked that this theory has more layers than a prestige drama. Others said this makes celebrity feuds look like kindergarten disagreements over crayons. Because if this wasn't just shade, but strategy, then this wasn't a beef. It was chess. First reactions split fast. Nicki supporters claimed she was finally pulling back the curtain on an industry that protects its biggest names at all costs. Beyoncé supporters called it disrespectful, irresponsible, and built entirely on speculation. Neutral observers grabbed popcorn and refreshed their feeds. What fueled the fire was timing. The internet loves patterns, and fans swore the timing of Nicki's moves lined up a little too neatly with moments people had been questioning for years. Coincidence to some, confirmation to others, the truth sat somewhere in between. Quietly ignored. Old interviews resurfaced where answers felt vague. Lyrics from different eras were mashed together like puzzle pieces that may or may not belong to the same box. Screenshots of deleted posts circulated with captions screaming, "Why was this removed?" Even when no one could confirm when or why. Cathy White's name, once obscure to mainstream audiences, suddenly became searchable. That alone changed the energy. When a rumor drags a real person's name back into public view, discomfort replaces entertainment. Some people paused, others doubled down. The internet doesn't handle discomfort well. It either jokes or accuses, and it did both. Memes popped up comparing this situation to true crime documentaries that spiral into theories without conclusions. Others joked that this story has been in production longer than some artists' albums. Nicki's role in this narrative became the centerpiece. Was she exposing something? Was she trolling? Was she venting? Or was the internet projecting meaning onto ambiguity the way it always does? Every interpretation sounded convincing. If you already wanted it to be true, what made this chapter dangerous wasn't evidence, it was imagination. The human brain loves stories, especially ones involving power, secrecy, and downfall. Once those elements are present, logic becomes optional. Silence from Beyoncé's side only added fuel. Even though silence doesn't mean agreement, guilt, or acknowledgement. The internet treats silence like a confession when it fits the storyline, and like wisdom when it doesn't. Consistency has never been its strength. By the end of this phase, the narrative had shape, not facts, a shape, one that felt dramatic, layered, and unsettling enough to keep people hooked. And once a story reaches that point, it stops being about what's true and starts being about what people feel. Because this wasn't just about Nicki, Beyoncé, or Cathy White anymore. It was about the idea that there are stories too big, too uncomfortable, or too protected to ever be spoken plainly. And whether that idea is reality or fiction didn't stop people from believing it. This was only the opening act. The foundation, the moment the internet collectively leaned forward and said, "Okay, now explain this." And the next developments were guaranteed to be louder, messier, and far more polarizing than anything that had come before. Once the theory hit full velocity, it didn't just trend, it metastasized. The internet took what little ambiguity existed and stretched it like conspiracy taffy, pulling threads from every direction until the story felt bigger, darker, and way more intentional than it ever started. This wasn't discussion anymore. This was digital folklore forming in real time. Timelines turned into detective boards. Fans started laying lyrics next to interviews, interviews next to dates, dates next to tragic headlines. And suddenly, everything was connected. Screenshots flew around like evidence bags. Even when nobody could confirm where they came from, context became optional. Confidence became law. Memes, of course, showed up early and stayed late. Some joked that this theory had more lore than a cinematic universe. Others said it made true crime documentaries look under-researched. Humor softened the edges, but it also helped the story travel faster. Jokes are the internet's favorite delivery system for discomfort. Celebrity AJ-sent reactions slid in sideways. Nobody named names. But vague posts about truth always coming out and people not ready for certain conversations started popping up. Were they related? Probably not. Did the internet treat them like confirmations? Absolutely. Nicki's every move became content. A like here, a repost there. A lyric from 10 years ago suddenly felt relevant. Fans read intention into everything, like watching tea leaves swirl in a cup and declaring destiny. Whether she meant to ignite this or not stopped mattering once the fire was lit. Beyoncé's silence became the loudest sound in the room. To supporters, it was dignity. To critics, it was avoidance. To conspiracy-minded fans, it was proof. Silence is a blank canvas, and the internet paints whatever it wants on it. The phrase "Becky, with the good hair," re-entered pop culture like a ghost with unfinished business. What was once clever ambiguity turned into alleged symbolism. People swore the lyric wasn't metaphor, it was a Again, allegedly, always allegedly. Even when people stopped saying the word. Think piece threads exploded. Some argued this was another example of how powerful figures get protected while narratives are buried. Others pushed back hard, calling the entire theory reckless, harmful, and disrespectful to real people involved. That clash only fed the algorithm more fuel. What made this phase especially volatile was how emotionally invested fans became. Beyoncé supporters saw the theory as an attack on a legacy. Nicki supporters framed it as truth-telling in a censored industry. Neutral observers felt like they'd accidentally wandered into a courtroom. With no judge. Pop culture comparisons went nuclear. People compared this to industry conspiracies that refused to die. The kind that resurfaced every few years with new evidence and the same unanswered questions. Others joked that this storyline had more twists than a primetime drama with no final season. The Cathy White angle is where discomfort peaked. Because theories stop being entertaining when they drag real names back into public speculation, some people paused, others didn't. The internet has never been great at knowing when to stop. Critics warned about the dangers of rumor culture, how it turns speculation into character assassination without accountability. Supporters countered that questioning power isn't the same as making accusations. Both sides talked past each other, convinced the other was missing the point. Live streams broke the situation down for hours. Hosts dissected body language from interviews recorded years apart. Every pause became intentional. Every deflection became suspicious. The logic was circular, but it felt convincing if you wanted it to be. Nicki's supporters framed her as the only one brave enough to hint at uncomfortable truths. Her critics accused her of stirring chaos without responsibility. Both narratives gained traction, because both fit existing opinions about her public persona. What really escalated things was repetition. The same clips, the same screenshots, the same theories posted by different accounts with different tones. Repetition doesn't make things true, but it makes them familiar, and familiarity feels like truth online. As outrage and fascination peaked, the story stopped being about what was proven and became about what was possible. That's the most dangerous zone for any rumor. Possibility invites imagination, and imagination doesn't respect boundaries. By the end of this phase, the internet wasn't asking for confirmation. It was asking for fallout. People wanted responses, consequences, reactions. They wanted the next shoe to drop, even if there was no shoe. And once a narrative reaches that level of expectation, it doesn't quietly disappear. It waits. It lingers. It sharpens. Because the louder the theory gets, the more pressure builds not just on the people involved, but on how the public decides what it believes, without ever seeing proof. And that pressure was about to turn into something far more lasting than a trending topic. When the noise finally dipped, it didn't disappear, it congealed. That's how internet theories survive. They don't need confirmation, they need time. And once enough people repeat the same story, it stops feeling like speculation and starts feeling like folklore with a fan base. The immediate aftermath wasn't explosive statements or public showdowns. It was restraint. Carefully measured distance. The kind that makes audiences lean in harder because silence always sounds louder when expectations are screaming. Beyoncé's camp stayed polished and quiet, which supporters praised as class, and critics framed as calculated. The same action, two completely different verdicts. Nicki's public image shifted again. Not dramatically, but deliberately. To her supporters, she looked fearless, someone willing to poke at industry taboos even when it's uncomfortable. To her critics, she looked reckless, accused of feeding theories she didn't fully own. That split hardened fast, because people rarely change teams once loyalty kicks in. The phrase, Becky, with the good hair, became permanently altered in public memory. It stopped being a lyric and became a symbol, not because of facts, but because of association. Symbols are powerful like that. They don't need evidence, they need repetition and belief. Industry reactions showed up quietly. No mass conduct, no public endorsements, just careful neutrality. In entertainment, neutrality is rarely accidental. It's the posture people take when any clear stance risks collateral damage. Fans on both sides experienced fatigue. Not boredom, exhaustion. The emotional investment had reached a point where every new thread felt heavier than the last. Some disengaged entirely. Others doubled down, determined not to let the truth die, even if that truth was still undefined. The Cathy White angle remained the most uncomfortable piece, because once a real person's name becomes internet shorthand, there's no rewind button. Even people urging caution couldn't stop the momentum. The internet doesn't do brakes. It does gas pedals and regrets later. Think piece energy lingered long after the memes slowed. Conversations shifted toward responsibility, not legal, but cultural. What happens when artists hint instead of speak? When audiences connect dots that might not belong together? When speculation becomes content? Critics argued that rumor culture damages everyone involved, regardless of intent. Supporters countered that powerful industries have always relied on silence and ambiguity to avoid scrutiny. Both points landed. Neither resolved anything. What became clear is that reputations don't need to be destroyed to be reshaped. Sometimes they just get Beyoncé remained untouchable in stature, but now wrapped in another layer of mystery people project onto. Nicki remained polarizing, but that polarization sharpened into something closer to myth-making. The internet moved on, as it always does, but not without leaving breadcrumbs behind. Old threads bookmarked, screenshots saved, videos queued for the next time the conversation because it will resurface. Stories like this always do. This wasn't a scandal with a verdict, it was a narrative with inertia. And inertia doesn't care about truth, only motion. The more people debated it, the more permanent it felt, even without new information. In the end, nothing was officially exposed, proven, or confirmed. But something still changed. The way fans listen, the way lyrics are read, the way silence is interpreted. That's the real consequence of viral theories. They recalibrate perception without ever asking permission. And maybe that's why this story refuses to die. Not because of what's known, but because of what's unknowable. The gaps invite imagination, and imagination is the most powerful engine the internet has. This chapter didn't close with answers, it closed with a shift. A reminder that in pop culture, meaning is often assigned, not discovered. And once assigned, it's almost impossible to take back. Because in the digital age, rumors don't fade, they hibernate. And when the timing feels right, they wake up louder than before. Whatever comes next won't erase this moment. It'll be read through it, fairly or not. That's the cost of living in a world where whispers travel faster than facts. And speculation can feel just as real as truth once enough people believe it. And that's where this chapter cuts to black. Not because the story is solved, but because the internet never closes the file. If you're sitting there thinking, this feels bigger than a rumor, but smaller than proof, congratulations, you're exactly where viral culture wants you, suspended between curiosity and chaos. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Nicki was dropping breadcrumbs on purpose? Or did the internet build a skyscraper out of a lyric and a timeline? Is Becky with the good hair just pop culture poetry that got out of hand? Or a symbol fans refuse to let rest? Sound off in the comments, because the comments section is where theories either grow legs or fall apart. If this breakdown had you rewinding, replaying, or side-eyeing old lyrics differently, smash that like button, like it personally lied to you. Don't tap it gently, hit it with conviction. The algorithm only respects bold decisions, and if you're not subscribed yet, fix that immediately. Because stories like this don't come with release dates. They resurface when you least expect them. This channel is where whispers meet time, where sarcasm meets skepticism, and where pop culture gets unpacked without the polite filter. While others rush to crown winners and villains, We break down how narratives are built, sold, and believed. Share this video with that friend who swears they don't care about celebrity drama but somehow knows every lyric, interview, and rumor by heart. You know exactly who that is. Because let's be real, another hidden meaning, another resurfaced clip, another late-night theory is already loading, and when it drops, you'll want to already be here. This is Viral Trek, where the truth doesn't travel straight. It takes detours. Stay curious, because the next rumor is already warming up. Yes, because the next rumor is already warming up.